Hey everyone, Todd Taranto with Cadre. You're running a small business. Budgeting is important. But the most important lesson I ever learned about budgeting, I wasn't taught in business school. And that is, your budget should always be zero. Here's why. So here's why your budget should always be zero. When I was just starting out, I was in a meeting with my business mentor at the time. It was a sales meeting. We're getting pitched on this software upgrade for something. And sales guy turns to us and says, "What's your budget for this project?" And my mentor looks him straight in the eye and says, "My budget is zero," right? And everyone laughed and chuckled and the conversation moved on. But after, I went to him and I said, "What did you mean by that? Were you just trying to push the sales guy off?" And he's like, "No, I really meant my budget's zero." And I'm like, "You've got to spend money on stuff. What do you mean?" And he said, "Look, if you set in your mind that you have a budget to spend something, you'll spend it. You'll allow yourself to spend it. You won't go through the mental gymnastics of justifying your expense, right? And you have to think of any expenditure as something from zero up instead of from some number down, right? So if you're always starting at zero and you're not going to spend any money on something unless it actually has a positive return back to you, then your budget always has to start off being zero. So odd concept, but it built in me this justification mindset for every dollar spent. So here's how I'm approaching trying to use this concept of my budget equals zero in this COVID crisis. Because I need a new budget now, right? My budget doesn't look anything like it did 2 months ago for 2020. Yours probably doesn't look like it either. And if you're in the events industry, your revenue's off 80%. Your headcount's down 80%, right? Your company doesn't look like it did 2 months ago. And there's this natural inclination, desire to want to get back to where you were and just bring those things back on, your people, your customers, but we don't know if that's ever going to happen, right? And it shouldn't be the default. All I'm suggesting is flip it upside down and say to yourself, I'm starting from scratch. I have a proven business concept, so I know eventually I'm going to be there working in the industry again. But I'm going to build this now from zero. Every dollar has to be justified. Every person, every salary, every lease, every piece of technology, every product, every office expense. Everything has to have a return. And you're starting from zero. It's not where your budget was. So you can take this same concept of budgeting from a baseline of zero to your annual budgeting process. And if you budget like how I was taught and how I used to budget, it's probably something like, I think I know what my revenue is going to be based on my contracts and my past history and with clients, and I kind of know what my HR costs are going to be as a percentage of that revenue, and I know what my travel is going to be as a percentage of that revenue because I have all this historical data, right? And you kind of project in the future what was in the past. And when I got this concept of my budget equals zero in my brain, sure, I could say past revenue was this, and these are my customers, and this is what my contracts say, and this is what I think is going to happen. But on the expense side and on the cost of sales side, I really started thinking through every single expense every year. And I would go through the motions and say, do I bring so-and-so back, right? If I have no employees, who do I bring back first? If I have no employees and I need what's the most important position to fill first, right? And it's almost like draft pick, right, for your company. And what do you need that you didn't have last year? And what expenses are justified again at every point? Because you're now creating your budget zero up instead of past historical numbers and just filling them in. And when you have that mindset, think it makes budgeting a lot more accurate. And it takes you out of the belief that things are going to be in the future along the same linear path as they were in the past, as we're learning right now. So your budget should always equal zero. I think it helps you bulletproof your business. I hope this helped.